I'm Neil Doyle. I currently supervise a county veteran service office, and the purpose of this presentation is to highlight the benefits and the pitfalls of securing federal funding at the local level. What is the true cost of waging war? A lot of Americans can relate to the current conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, so they understand that there's a huge cost of waging war in terms of monetary cost and human sacrifice. But what is life after war? The true underlying cost and residual cost of war is actually after the war is done being fought. And these are the costs associated with serving for our brave men and women after they return home from the combat zone or exit the military. And this is largely why Abraham Lincoln created the VA after the Civil War. Several of the members that fought in the Civil War were actually farmers that left their land to their wives to serve in the war. But when they returned home, most of them had shell fragment wounds, gunshot wounds, amputations, some brain injuries that where they just physically could not work the land anymore. And this is why VA was created by Lincoln. The below quote was taken directly out of Lincoln's second inaugural address in 1865, and this largely set the stage for what VA has become today. A lot of people think of the VA as one VA. It's actually three different cabinets. Primary is the Veterans Health Administration. This is what a lot of people connect with when they think of what the VA is. It's our hospital campuses throughout America and the Philippines. The Veterans Benefits Administration, they oversee all the monetary benefits that veterans, dependents, and spouses are eligible for. This is your service-connected disability payments, your home loan guarantee, education, insurance, burial claims, anything monetary related they have oversight on. And then lastly, the National Cemetery Administration, which is responsible for upkeep, maintenance, groundwork of our national cemeteries, beautification, monuments, and headstones and markers to mark graves of veterans and spouses. Complexities have created advocacy. The more complex the VA has become over the years, the more need that there has been for an advocacy approach. And there's several different entities that provide advocacy. National service organizations, such as the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Vietnam Veterans of America, they all have service officers embedded in our federal buildings across America. And they also employ hospital representatives in the VA medical centers in America. Minnesota is fortunate that we have a state statute that mandates that we have a county veteran service office in each individual county. This mandate is unfunded, however. So for counties to implement this, they need to find the funding internally. There's also State Department of Veterans Affairs in each state in America. And lastly, there's attorneys and agents that work at a fee-for-service. These are largely complex service-connected disability claims where they represent them before the Board of Veterans Appeals judges in order to secure those benefits. Local definitions: what is a county veteran service officer? We're basically the first line of defense for these veterans. We're the advocates at the local level, and we assist them in filing any application for a federal or state benefit and assist with navigation through these benefits and the VA hospitals. The county board is a group of elected officials that govern and oversee any tax dollars that are flowed into the county courthouse, and they make sure that the county administrator is administrating them with due diligence, so our taxpayers are satisfied with the services that are delivered at the local level. And a county administrator is comparable to that of a CEO of a private company, and that they're the liaison to the board, and they make sure that the board's recommendations are closely carried out. Issues that have been caused by complexity over the years, funding mechanisms. Our veterans population in rural America is declining. That means less tax levy for these counties. So they're looking at different models in order to meet the state statutes, such as joint powers agreements, mixing the CVSO position with emergency management duties or another position to keep them full-time. And in some cases, they just don't have the funds to implement a full-time CVSO, so they make them part-time. There are certain county positions that do mirror some of our duties as CVSOs. These are eligibility specialists that assist non-veteran claimants and veterans with eligibility for general assistance or Medicaid. And they receive federal match dollars from the Health and Human Services. There are some advocacy concerns with this. Anytime you get into federal purse strings, I guess, they have certain sanctions they can impose on your office. They could change your job description. They could limit your advocacy in some ways. So there are rightful concerns of why we would not want to secure federal funding. There are staffing concerns, as I mentioned before. Rural counties, our veteran population is aging just like the rest of America, which means less tax revenue for counties to afford ongoing operations of rural counties. But by securing federal funding, it would assist these rural counties in maintaining their ongoing operations. For urban counties, what I'm seeing is a lot of our aging veteran population is moving to the more urban areas because there's more choices in assisted living centers and skilled nursing homes, which affects the government employee to population ratio. For example, my county has about 12,500 veterans in it. That's not counting dependents and spouses. And we have 3 full-time county veteran service officers. So that equates to about 1 service officer to 4,000 people. Research methodology. There's a lot of secondary data that is available online. A primary source of this data is the GDX Excel spreadsheet. This is published by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. It's their data miners, their analysis and statistics department. And it's one massive Excel spreadsheet that's broken down by state and then county. And it highlights the federal expenditures that flow into that county as a result of enrollment in VA hospitals, so their unique patients are on there. The amount of service-connected disability compensation that flows into each county, education dollars that flow into each county, insurance, basically every federal benefit out there, it's broken down so you can see exactly what the federal expenditures for a given county are. For my county, for example, it's about $36 million. Now, why that's important is because you can show your county board the return on investment. You know, the average service officer costs about $100,000. That's in wages and fringe benefits. So if there's 3 of us and we're generating $36 million in federal expenditures, that's a pretty substantial return on investment that they can see and understand. The Minnesota Department of Veterans Affairs also has a data and statistics tool available, and these are charts, graphs. You can do a search by age. I can search and see how many female veterans are residing in my county. Basically, any type of measure that you want to use. It's for this reason that this is largely quantitative research, but there are some qualitative approaches, and it's largely a comparative approach. Scope, basically it's my intent to uncover pathways and options for CVSO offices, study positions of similarity that currently do receive federal match funding, and identify the correct source of federal funding. As an advocacy standpoint, the federal VA might not be the proper source of this federal funding. It would kind of serve as conflict of interest. A better source may be Health and Human Services or another federal cabinet. And as I stated before, Minnesota does have a state statute that mandates each county have an embedded CBSO, but when that bill was passed, it was an unfunded mandate. Intended audience, any of our elected officials, state representatives, senators, U.S. congressmen and women, our local county boards and county senior management, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, the State Department of Veterans Affairs, any county veteran service officer and national service officer, and then veteran spouses and dependents would all be our constituents. To sum things up, historically America has always done a very good job at taking care of their nation's veterans, widows, and survivors. And it's my opinion that the VA has done an excellent job in rendering care to our veterans. Our veterans are aging, just like the rest of the population. Rural county veterans population is declining. Urban county veterans population is, in some cases, climbing. In other cases, it is declining, just like rural counties. Our veterans have greater needs today than they did in the past because of the aging. They have chronic presumptive disabilities. There's a higher prevalence of needing aid and attendance in their housebound status. So it's becoming much more difficult and time-consuming to serve this populace, even though the numbers are declining. Their needs are greater. At this time, I would open up to any questions. I thank you for your attention, and I hope you took something away from this.